Okay. This is Genealogy Basics and how to start researching your family history. My name is Elaine Hayes, and I work at the Laramie County Library in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And I have worked for the library for 21 years. I've been doing the genealogy for most of that time, for about 16 or 17 years of that, and teaching these classes. And there's a lot to learn today, but this is going to be the basics, kind of how to get started, the first kind of records that you should be looking at. And next week, same time next week, I have a Beyond the Basics class. And so if you want to continue on, you can come same time, 3 p.m. on next Wednesday, and get the second part of the class. Also, if for some reason, you need to leave early, or you can't come next week, we are recording this to YouTube. So that's the recording I'm doing is going to be on the Laramie County Library's YouTube channel. And you'll see that some of my other classes I've done in the past are also there. And if there's any problem, like you can't hear me, or you can't see the screen or something, please feel free to unmute yourself and let me know. That at this point, I'm assuming everything's going well. And I already said that you can enter your questions into the Zoom chat box, or at the end of the program, you can just ask me a question. And mute yourself just so we don't have the background noises. If you have a more complicated question, or you'd like to come in the library and see what we have, or sit down with me for a one-on-one help session, you can send me an email at ehayes@lclsonline.org. And I believe that is also in your handouts. And we have the basic handouts available on our website too. I sent them to you in an email today or yesterday, and but they're also available on our website. If you want to get started with your genealogy, you need to know what you already know about your family, and you can record what you already know on things like this is a pedigree chart or family group sheet. You're always told to start with yourself and work backwards in time. So, you record your number 1 on that chart, and then your parents are number 2, and going back in time, find out all the information about your parents that you can, get their birth certificates if you don't already have that, then your grandparents, great-grandparents, etc. It's also a good idea sometimes to concentrate on one particular line at a time so you don't get distracted by other information coming in. Look for those original records from all sources, and not just on the internet. And we'll talk a little bit more about all those records, but things like birth, marriage, and death records, things, a family history somebody might have written, all those other sources, and not just what you can find on the internet. A good place to start is with the US Census and vital records. And vital records are birth, marriage, and death records. And I said that you should work backwards in time. Basically, you're verifying each generation as you go back to keep yourself from making mistakes. Make sure you talk to your family. And this is a mistake that almost everybody makes, is that when you're younger, you're not interested in your family history. And when your parents and your aunts and uncles and everything are still alive, you're not interested. But if you've got anybody that's still alive in the family, even cousins, family friends, older brothers and sisters, make sure you talk to them and find out what they know about the family. And collect all those family stories, photographs, mementos, and things like that, just to make your story more engaging, more fun, more interesting, in addition to all the little clues that you can find. And these days, it's easier to get some of that information because people can take take a picture with their phone of a document and just email it to you. That's a lot easier than it used to be. Used to be, you would have to at least, go down, they'd have to go down and make a photocopy for you and mail it to you, but this is a lot quicker these days. And you're going to start to get a whole lot of information and wonder how you're going to keep track of all that. People start out with a lot of paper and filing cabinets or notebooks or something like that. And then you might move on to files, big vertical files, or just some kind of software that lives on your computer. And we'll talk about that. Or you can keep family trees with all that information that you find in a database such as Ancestry.com or FamilySearch.org in private or shared family trees. And a lot of people I know do all of these things. And a lot of people I know are actually doing less of the paper stuff and a lot more just on the internet. I know I do that. I do have some genealogy software of my own, but I end up saving stuff on Ancestry.com more frequently than I do, in my legacy program. This is the 4-generation pedigree chart that I showed you. This is similar to the one that I sent you in the email, but these are the nice things about this kind and the one I sent you is that they're numbered. And so your number 1, like your father is 2, your mother is 3, and then you have your father's family on top and your mother's family below. And it does go out to your great-grandparents. So parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, yeah. And if you needed to go back farther than that, which hopefully everyone will eventually, you need more charts. That's why it says at the top, this is chart number 1, and number 8 is continued on chart number 2, for instance. So you can keep more of these charts to keep track of your whole family. And of course, this is just basic information. So there are other forms like family group sheets that you could also keep, or information in a genealogy software program. And here's some of the examples of the genealogy software programs that I've been talking about. Things like Legacy Family Tree, Gramps, Roots Magic, Family Tree Builder, and there's others, Generations, Family Tree Maker, things like that. And they're for both the PC or a Mac. Or like I said, that you can keep track of it all online on a database too, like Family Search. You can get free versions of most of these genealogy software, but the version that you pay for is going to have more bells and whistles and do more for you probably. But you can get started with a free version. There was something else I was going to say about that. Oh yeah, they live on your computer. So this is not shared out with the internet. This is stuff that it's just on your computer, just for you to keep track of your family tree information. The problem with that is if something happens to your computer, you lose it. So make sure you save it somewhere else too. Either save it on in another format. So it's not just in one place that you can lose. This is Legacy, just what it looks like. It's not my legacy, it's somebody else's. But you can see that you can put in a family tree, you can add pictures, you can add all the information about a person, and you can search it to find the people. This is another version of Legacy where you just instead of having a family tree, you have all the information about a single person written down here in alphabetical order. This is what, actually, this is part of my family tree at Ancestry.com. And Ancestry.com is a paid family history database. It's the biggest in the world as far as paid and genealogy databases. It does cost between, I'd say about $150 to about $350 a year, depending on how often you pay and whether you have just US records or the world. Of course, if you're going to pay monthly and you have the world, it's going to add up to more than if you pay for a whole year and you just have US. So, but you can go in for do like a trial subscription for 2 weeks and create a family tree, and your family tree will be there forever. You'll always, even if you're not paying for the records, you can still go in with a free account and add to your family tree. You just can't do all the searching and stuff like that. Another thing is that Ancestry will keep that forever. So it's unless you delete it. So Ancestry, they like to have people go in and add family tree information because then they're getting more information. So that's another option, is you can have a free Ancestry.com account or a paid one. Family Search is the LDS, or the Mormon Church's family history website. They have the largest family history library in the world in Salt Lake City. They have digitized 95 to 100% of what they can digitize of the information that they have in their library. And they have records from all over the world, you know, from archives, from churches, from censuses done all over the world, things like that, and that you can search, and it's free. So anybody, I tell everybody, sign in and get a FamilySearch.org account. And that's one place that you can put your family tree information. So this is my family tree at Family Search. And you can add pictures, you can add all sorts of information in here too. Along with beginning your research at home and talking to your relatives, you should also realize that there's a lot of documents that might be in your home or in the home of a relative that's going to tell you about your family. Things like birth, marriage, and death certificates. These are all those kind of things that people tend to keep. Deeds, wills, and titles, anything legal information, family Bibles and family trees that maybe other people have worked on. Is Family Search public information? Sherilyn asked. I'm going to get back to that with you and find out a little bit more at the end what you mean by that. So we'll get back to your question, okay, at the end. So newspaper clippings, of course, obituaries, but marriage announcements, anything that might be in the newspaper about your family. Military search records. And I do have a handout, I didn't give it to you, that lists all the different kind of things that might tell you information about your family. And it goes on for, I don't know, there's 100 different ideas of things that you might find in your home that tell you about your family. There are also published family histories. We have thousands in the LCS Special Collections Books and Periodicals collection. And so these are family histories, or things that are written about a specific family. And that we also have books that might include records of a certain town, tax records or birth records or cemetery listings, things like that, that might help you out with your family. So you can look and see what's in our collection. You can also do interlibrary loan for if there's a family history in any library in the United States, there's a possibility that library might loan it to us, or if they won't loan it to us, maybe they'll make photocopies of pages that you need. So you can look through interlibrary loan as a way to get some information. And worldcat.org is a website. It's a catalog of library catalogs, so you can search your family names and see what's available. Of course, some things are at Google Books that you might be able to find family history information. The LDS Family History Library in Salt Lake City has a book collection. They've digitized some of them not. Some of them might be under copyright, but you can ask for them to maybe digitize something, or for them to look up something for you, or go visit in Salt Lake and pull the book right off the shelf. Ancestry Library and Ancestry.com databases also have some digitized books. And we charge $2 for interlibrary loans, but it's definitely worth it if you can get the information you need. And remember, of course, just because it's in print in a book or online doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Be really careful about copying other people's research without verification, because some genealogists are just better than others. Some of them are a little sloppy, and they'll say, hey, that's definitely my family because they all have the same last name, but maybe they're not. So just be careful, make sure it makes sense, make sure that you can verify it, you can find out the sources, where did they get that information. Just be careful about what you find. Okay, we're going to talk about census records first, because that was one of them that I said are some of the best records you can start with. So US Census Records. In the United States, the government has taken a census every 10 years from 1790 through 2020. The 1790 through 1940 censuses are available right now for genealogists to search, and they're widely available. They're in pretty much every genealogy database. They're at Family Search. They're at other places you can search for free. So that's a great place to start and find your information, since you can hopefully find your family every 10 years back. The reason why the 1950 through 2020 census aren't available is because there's a 72-year privacy law. So they're not available until that census has been gone for 72 years, which means that the 1950 census is going to be available next year in April, specifically. April 1st or something was the census date. So for 1950. So the 1950 census will begin to be available in April of 2022. And I have heard that they're going to release it before it's indexed. So nobody's seen it for 72 years. So it's not indexed, name indexed. So that work has to be done, but you'll be able to see it and browse through it. So it'll come up. You can look at a certain city, a certain place, and go through page by page if you want until they get the indexing done. For the 1940 census, that took a couple of months. There was just a couple of months of having to put up with not being able to just search for your names. And then they'll get the indexing done and you'll be able to search it. But that'll be really great. So if you have anybody in your family that was born, would have been alive in the 1940 census, you can start with them and then work your way backwards. You find them in 1940, then find them in 1930, on and on. And eventually find them, with their parents. And then you've got another generation back. Keep going and find those people with their parents. So you can work your way back, hopefully back until 1790, or at least back until when they immigrated to the United States. The early census, the 1790 to 1830 censuses, have only the name of the head of the households, usually the man or the father, the head of the household, plus sort of a count or a tally of others that are living in the home. It's usually divided by males of a certain age and then females of a certain age groups. And sometimes they may include slaves or non-free persons, male and female, and numbers. But they just have, so it's you have to know the name of the head of the household to follow that. It's a little harder to figure out female members, for instance, unless they're the head of the household, which they might be if they're widows. But starting in 1840, they started to include the name of every person in the household. So parents, mother, father, and all the children, servants living in the household, hired hands, mother-in-law, whoever else is living in the household is also there by name. So 1840, it gets a little bit easier for genealogists. Unfortunately, that 1890 federal census was destroyed by fire. Only little tiny bits of the 1890 census exist. So there's a big gap between 1900 and 1880 if you're going backwards in time. That's a time period that a lot of people tend to lose track of their family because that's a big 20-year gap. Fortunately, around 1890, there are some other census substitutes, and some of them are things like city directories, like Polk city directories, state censuses. Most of the states did a census too. At different times, it kind of depended on, so there are census substitutes available, tax lists, things like that. From 1900 to 1930, the censuses included the birthplace of every person and their parents' birthplace. So this is, and additional information. This is really helpful if you have immigrant ancestors in that period, because you it says where they were born and where each of their parents were born. Start with that 1940 census and work backwards. You know, pretty soon we're going to have 1950, and we can even start with that one. And like I said, it's widely available, the census information, ancestry.com, Ancestry Library Edition, Heritage Quest, and Family Search. And I haven't mentioned Ancestry Library Edition or Heritage Quest yet, but we will tell you more about that. Ancestry Library Edition is the library version of Ancestry.com. So it's what public libraries pay for and what our library has here at the library. And it's the same thing. It's all the same information as Ancestry.com. The difference is it's not personalized. When you have Ancestry.com, you put in your own family history, family tree information. It does some automatic searching for you, comes up with the little hints, the little green leaves on your family tree, and gives you hints. It doesn't do that, of course, in Ancestry Library Edition. You have to do the searching yourself. So you put in the names and dates and things to search for the people you want to search for, and then you have to save that information, you know, on a flash drive or print it or type it into your legacy program or whatever to save that information. Heritage Quest is another thing that the genealogy database that the library has. And so both Ancestry Library Edition and Heritage Quest can be accessed through our library databases online and at home right now until December 31st, 2021. And the reason why Ancestry did that was because during COVID, there was a lot of libraries that were closed. And so they were still providing access to their clients by letting their clients go through their libraries and search Ancestry Library Edition at home. Heritage Quest is sort of a subset of the information of Ancestry Library Edition, and that's always available for you to search through your library at home. So, okay. When you're searching the US Census, note similar names living nearby, because what the census taker would do is they'd take their big census book and go from one house to the next house. And so people on that page or the page before or the page after, these are their neighbors. These are people living in the same area. And there may be family members living close to each other, or people that you recognize as being family members. So you should look for similar names living nearby. Watch for spelling differences. Don't be wedded to one surname spelling. Spelling doesn't count in genealogy. The spelling of your surname doesn't count. Everybody's surname changes. Most of my surnames, even simple ones, I have 4 or 5 different spellings of the surname recorded. And look for other clues that that's the right people, rather than that it's spelled exactly the way you think it should be spelled. There are different ways. I mean, people change the spelling of their name. The census taker maybe spelled it wrong. The person that indexed the record read it wrong. There's all sorts of ways that the spelling can be different. Always keep track of the source, and that's something that your genealogy program will do for you. Or, you know, if you're keeping track of it in paper or in your own program, make sure that you recorded that you got this, where you got that information. So if you either ever have to go back and check it, or somebody questions it or something. And so you might want to, you know, scan them, photocopy it, save it, print it, whatever you need to keep track of that information. Okay, this is an old census. This is what the 1810 census looked like. And just to show you, this is somebody in my family. This is the 1810 census from Pennsylvania, Adams County, Conewago. And that is Jacob Adams, Esquire. And they ask how many males of different ages. And that's why it says 1 or 2 or 1. If this is free white persons, males under 10, and then males 10 to 15, there's 2. I think there was 1 under 10. Males 16 to 25, 1. And then the next must be 26 to 44 or something. And there's 1 that is 45 and older. And then the same thing with females. There are 3 females under 10. There are 2 females 16 to 25 and 1 female 45 and older. So the male and female 45 and older, that's mom and dad, and there's their kids, basically. So you can figure out if that's the right family, but it makes it a little bit harder. And so that's just what the 1810 census looks like. And this is what Ancestry shows you, you know, I had to figure out what all that is, but there's 6 people in the household. 6 people, 6 kids, 2 adults, and 11 members total. Oh yeah, under 16 and over 25 is what they're asking for. So there are some, I guess, in that 16 to 25 that's not counted. Okay, this is what the 1940 census looks like. And just to show you the different, of course, they're asking a whole lot more questions and more people are shown. as I said, the census taker would just go down the street and stop. This is in a farm country, so they're going down from one farm to the next farm. And the first person listed would be the head of the household, and then the mother, and then all the children from the oldest to the youngest. And then they would also list other people living in the household who are not children, like hired hands, servants, mother-in-law, father-in-law, nieces, nephews, whoever else might be living in the household. They were also asking how you're related to the head of the household, male or female. They asked your race, they asked your age, whether you were married or single, your age. Let's see what else. They asked where you were born, and this is 1940. So they asked questions about where you lived in 1935 because of the Depression. A lot of people lost their homes or farms or whatever. So it says for my family there, it says same house. They ask, and if you live somewhere else, they ask where you lived in 1935, at least the town and the state. The yeses and nos were whether you were at where you worked and whether you used any of the WPA assistance, your occupation, industry, things like that. Your income, they also, if you were on the farm schedule, if you were farming, things like that, because there was a separate schedule for farming. Down below in 1940, they asked 2 people on this page extra questions, and they're on the bottom too. But it all depended on what the government was interested in finding out about people on that particular year. In 1930, for example, they asked you if you had a radio because they were trying to start the weather, the warning system, a broadcast system, whatever it is, the warning broadcast system, and whether it would work if they said there was a tornado on the way on the radio. Whether if people would, or a flood or whatever, and national broadcast system. And they found out most people did have a radio and that would work just fine. So of course now we do TV instead of radio, but as I told you before, the Ancestry Library is the library version of Ancestry.com, and it's available for you to search at home until December 3rd, that should say 31st. 2021, and who knows, they might extend that, give you more time to search at home, or they might go back to you have to come into the library to search Ancestry Library, which is the old rules. If you want to search it at home, what do? Well, you go to our website, which is lclsonline.org. And that's in the handout. Click on Library Catalog, which is that bubble on the left-hand side. Click on the Library Catalog, and it will look like this. And you'll see the databases. That's where you go next, is you click on databases. And we've got a lot of databases about all sorts of subjects. But one of the subject areas down below is genealogy, and you can just click on that to see what genealogy databases are available, or you can type in the search bar, you can type Ancestry, or you can go by title, go under A for Ancestry or H for Heritage Quest. And you will, if you click on genealogy, you'll get to all these genealogy databases, and the top 2 are Ancestry Library Edition and Heritage Quest. So, and I also circled gowild.net, because if all that clicking is too much for you, you can just remember gowild.net and you can get right to the page before there where you can choose the genealogy databases. You will have to put in your library card number and your PIN number. And if you have any trouble with that, just give us a call at the library. But you need to put in your long library card number. They start out 29092 or something like that. Big long library card number. Don't put the A at the front or the B at the end. And what your PIN is, if you don't know it, chances are it might be WYLD, W-Y-L-D, if you've had your library card for a long time. Or if it's a new library card, it might be READ, R-E-A-D. But like I said, just call the library if you have any trouble with that. We can talk you through it. And this is what Heritage Quest looks like. It's very similar to what Ancestry looks like, or Ancestry Library Edition. It's owned by the same people, ProQuest, and I think that they have things like Census Records. Mostly it looks to me like it's mostly government and US records. So it's just a subset of what Ancestry Library has. This is what Ancestry Library looks like. You can search a whole lot of different ways. You can just click on the green button that says begin searching. There's a search up above that you can click on. I clicked on the kind of drop down search, and you'll see that it asks for just first and middle name, last name, place, any place they might have lived, birth year, and an estimated birth year works just fine if you don't know exactly when. I circled show more options, because if you show more options, then you have more things you can put in. This is really helpful if you've got somebody with a common name. You know, you're looking for John Smith that lived in Massachusetts and you think he was born about 1860. Well, you're going to probably find a lot of John Smiths. So you can add more information, such as, you know, a death date or a spouse's name or a child's name, things like that. And I also circled card catalog, because that's basically where you can find out just, you know, maybe you're looking for something specific, like, I don't know, Scottish Jacobite immigrant, I don't know, something very specific. You can go to the card catalog and see if there's anything in the databases about that. But usually if you just hit the search, you're searching everything. But it's going to come up with the birth, marriage, and death records first, and then census and immigration and things like that, usually in that order. But your closest matches first. I put in August Haug, which is both my grandfather and great-grandfather's on my mother's side's name. And they lived in Kansas. The oldest, August, my great-grandfather, was born in 1850 in Germany. So I put all that in. Birth year 1850 in Germany, but he lived in Kansas, and his spouse, my great-grandmother's name, his spouse, was Catherine with a K. So I put her name in. And I click search, and I get 265,478 records. But the stuff that it gives me first should be the best matches that Ancestry thinks we have. And at the top, we have family tree information. And you can look at that, but that's stuff that individuals have entered about the family. And as far as I can tell, that looks right. That agrees with what I know about them. But if the hard records are down below, the matching records. We have a 1920 census, Find a Grave, which is an outside website of cemeteries. 1900 census and a 1910 census, and then it goes on and on. But I think, looking through this, I don't know about the one in Indiana, but the other three look like that's my great-grandfather. So we're going to look at all those. The first one, if you kind of hover over it, it'll open up and it gives me all that information. And so I can look through there and say, is that my guy? Well, okay, he's born in Germany, lived in Nemaha County, Kansas. Yep, that's where they lived. Immigration date about 1869. It's telling me all sorts of information. He's married to Catherine Haug. He's a farmer. He's a naturalized citizen. He owned his own home and farm. He's 69 at this age. That's where they came up with that he was born about 1851. But if that looks like something I want to look at, then I can click on that, and then it gives me all this information again. But I can just print this page if I want, or I can go to view the blank form, or view the actual scanned in census. I can save it. I can send document means to email it somewhere to a friend or to yourself or whatever. The suggested records down below on the right-hand bottom side, always pay attention to that, because usually those are really good. These are ones, other records that Ancestry thinks is the same person. So another good hint, if you've got a common name person, Ancestry thinks that this is the same person. And the reason they think it's the same is that people who are Ancestry members who have August Haug in their family trees have saved this record and these to this particular person. So that's why they think this is the same person. But and in my case, these are probably because I've saved them to the tree. But if you come up with these are really good things to take a look at, is the suggested records. We're going to click on to view the scanned in original census for 1920. And I know you can't really see that, that's pretty small. And I already sort of told you how they go from household to household. And they basically would talk to an adult, whoever. They tried to talk to the mother or father, the head of the household or the wife, somebody that would know everything, but they didn't always. Sometimes the census taker may have talked to a kid or a neighbor or something like that. But most of the time they did try to talk to the head of the household. And usually the head of the household did want to answer the question, because that's kind of exciting for have the census taker come to your house. In this case, they asked for where that in 1920, they did ask where a person was born and where both their mother and father was born. They asked language spoken. They asked that naturalization information. But this one, I think you can see a little bit better. You can see that the nice, helpful gray bars that come up in Ancestry that tell you what category this is, so, and who you're looking at. If you have a hard time reading somebody's handwriting, it'll show you the indexer, what the indexer thought that this said. So, we have August Haug, Catherine, a daughter named Catherine, William, and Monroe. So we have head of the household, a wife, a daughter, and 2 sons listed here. And they're 69 and 62 years old. So the kids are at least the youngest one listed there is 16. The next thing they do ask is about immigration. Year of immigration, whether they're naturalized or not. NA means that they are naturalized, and year of naturalization. I think my next one is up close a little more, but there's occupational information over on the side. if you look all up and down this page, you'll see that most of the people on this page immigrated from Germany, and most of them speak German because this was basically a German farming community. There are a few that are not, and a lot of the kids are actually born in the US, but a lot of them were born in Germany and speak German. This is a little bit up closer to the naturalization status, because this is actually how I found out when they immigrated and when they were naturalized, is beyond the 1920 census. It says 1869, naturalized in 1890. Where they asked for the birthplace of every person, the census taker wrote down Vertenberg and then Germany. Okay, Vertenberg, you know, before there was a united Germany, there were a lot of little states, and Vertenberg was one of them. Kind of marked it out. I can't see that it's marked out, but it might be in the 1930 census. The census taker marked them out, but you could still read it. Up above, I see one somebody who was born in Odenberg, Germany. So this gives you all sorts of information. You can estimate when everyone was born by how old they are. You can estimate, you know, you've got the year of immigration and naturalization there too. Sometimes they asked how long a couple had been married, and so that gives you an idea of marriage date too. This is the 1910 census. Remember, we're going back every 10 years. So we're looking at the 1910 census. And so this is August, Haug, and Catherine. And we've got some different kids because this is 10 years earlier. So they have some kids that are younger and that are still at home. We have 2 sons, a daughter, and they're at the bottom of the page. And it would be a mistake to think that's all there is. So we need to go to the next page to see if the family's continued on to the next page. But I have an arrow next to save. I have an arrow next, well, that's where you would save it if you want to save it to a flash drive or on your computer. And also to the little tools thing on the right, and that's where you would go if you wanted to print it. You know, you'd have to go to tools to print, not go up to the browser or something and print from there, but inside the PDF, use that. And I've also circled 1910 United States Federal Census, Kansas, Nemaha County, Nemaha, and there's a district. So that's all good information. But and over in the middle of the page, there's kind of a little caret. That's to go to the next page. And I'll go to the next page, and we got 2 more kids, 2 more sons, and we've got a boarder living in the household too. So the sons, there's one that's 7 and one is 12. So some younger kids still living in the household, and they had a bunch of kids. They had 13 or 14. But these are just the younger ones that are still living with them. And the person who's the boarder is Alice Rogers. And she was born in Kansas, but her parents were both born in Ireland. She speaks English. It says she is a teacher in the public school. Well, that's why she's living with them, is because they had so many kids. They were he actually donated the land, built the school, and hired the teacher and had them live in their house. So that's more about that family. But and I just happen to know this from family histories, but I didn't know that they had the teacher living in the house with them until I saw this census. Let's see. Anything else interesting on that page? Oh, if you look below, these are Haugs. If you look below them, there is an Ed Haug who is probably related to them, was probably his brother, actually, as a matter of fact, who is living just a couple of farms away from them. So that's kind of why you want to look at the page before, page after, see who the neighbors are. Using all those clues we found about immigration, we can put that in, and I'm just searching just the immigration and travel information in Ancestry Library Edition. So we had August Haug, who was born in 1850. He arrived in 1869 from Germany, and that's all I put in for that. And you'll notice the arrow is pointing to where you can narrow by passenger list or citizen or whatever, citizenship and naturalization information, border crossings. It also includes not just ship passenger lists, but border crossings in Canada or Mexico. Ship pictures, things like that. But I'm going to just search everything in the immigration and travel category. Okay, I have some people. The first one is actually not him. This August George Friedrich Haug is somebody else. The second one is the Vertenberg Germany Immigration Index. Well, we'll want to look at that because the census taker wrote that he was born in Vertenberg. And actually that birthday is correct, 17th of August, 1850. He was named August because he was born in August. So, okay, and we have him, this happened in February 1869, which is just the right time. So I'm going to want to look at that. Then we have a New York passenger list, also has him born in 1850, which sounds right. The next one is that George August Friedrich Haug, which is not the right person. And the New York passenger list down below that has him born in 1846, which is probably not him because that's the wrong time period. But there are three things there, or at least two things there that we should look at. That Vertenberg Germany Immigration Index and the New York passenger list that looks right. This is the Vertenberg Germany Immigration Index. And see, we have suggested records. We've got more things to look at. But we've got a district, which is Rottenburg, I think, which is close, which is in the right area. The right birth date, Vermlingen, so that's a town in Vertenberg, February 1869, and they're going to North America. This is actually something that I probably need to look into at the Family Search, because the LDS Family History Library had the actual Vertenberg Germany Immigration Index microfilmed, and they may have digitized it. And I've seen it before, and it's all in German, because what they're doing is they're applying to leave Germany. Immigration with an E means you're leaving somewhere. So basically, Germany didn't want you to leave if you needed to fulfill military obligation, you know, or you you know, were wanted for a crime in Germany or something. They wanted to make sure you were okay to leave Germany and immigrate to the United States. And he basically had to submit papers that proved that he was old enough, and he submitted like baptismal certificate, you know, he wasn't a little kid running away, and that he wasn't married, and there were just letters in German that said that you know, he doesn't owe anybody any money, he's not running from the law, he can immigrate. Okay, this is the New York passenger list, and remember that Vertenberg immigration list had it February 1869. Well, the New York passenger list says that he arrived the 25th of March, 1869. Timing still sounds good. He's 19 years old, from Germany. Port of departure was Hamburg. The ship's name was Westphalia. And there's a citation below of where they got that information. We can click on view and see it. And this is what the passenger list looks like for 1869. This was before Ellis Island. This was before a lot of immigration laws. So there was not a lot here, but we have Reinhard Haug, who's 22, and below it, it says August, and then there's like a ditto mark. It's August Haug, his little brother, is 19. They're both male. They asked their occupation. Reinhard is a smith, and August is a cartwright. And you might see that there are other people that are laborers or carpenters or working men or smiths, joiner. These are all laborers, kind of working people and they're all from Germany. The next one asks where you're coming from, and it's written up and down, but it says Germany and where you're going, and it says United States. You can just see United, but it says United States. And then on farther off to the right, they asked whether you were first class, second class, or between decks. And all of these people are between decks, and that is steerage or third class, basically. So these are all the passengers from Germany immigrating to the United States in steerage. And there's a lot of males coming by themselves. There are some couples, some families, but yeah. So, and that's kind of what they look like before Ellis Island opened in 1892. After Ellis Island opened, they asked a whole lot more questions because they had a whole lot more laws and quotas and things like that. And the cool thing about this is that I know what boat they were on. They were on the Westphalia, and exactly when it came. There are passenger ship images and results. You can find out more about that ship. You can see a picture, kind of a history of the ship. It does tell you a little bit about the ship. I thought it was interesting below that they have 150 passengers in cabins and 680 in third class in that steerage class. This is what it looks like. This is a steamship, big steamship funnel. So that's kind of cool. You find out more about your family that way. And just from information you found in the census and putting that into searching for immigration records. Now, vital records are those civil records of births, marriage, and death. The official keeping of civil or government birth and death records only began during the mid-19th or early 20th century. So eventually, as you go back farther, you're going to run out of official birth records. But those are kind of replaced by church records that record a baptism or burial or something like that. Marriage records exist farther back because they're legal, marriage records and wills and things like that do exist farther back. Many of the vital records are not on any internet database and must be acquired from the source. Usually the source is that government entity that wants you to record the birth and death. So you need to go to the state where a person was born and find their vital records information. If it's old enough information, you may have to go to an archives rather than the Vital Records Department of a state might have 50 or 100 years of information. But if it's older than that, then it might be in their state archives. And these are not free. Almost never are these free, but they're usually not too expensive. There are some things that you can find about the birth, marriage, and death, including some death certificates if they're old enough and they've been shared with internet databases, like Missouri, for instance. I think they have to be older than 50 years or something for death information, but I've seen a lot of Missouri death certificates online at Ancestry. But I'm looking for birth, marriage, and death. So vital record information for my grandmother, Blanche Haug. This is actually the younger August Haug's wife. And I know she was born in Kansas and she died in Colorado. And that's all I put in for her is her name, the name she had when she passed away, because I'm kind of looking for death information, and where she lived when she passed away. I it came up with a lot of stuff, but actually everything on that page is information that I would like to have, because the first three are all her. Oh, well, not the Washington marriage records. Okay, the first two are definitely her. And the last two are my information about my uncles that mention that she is their mother. So the US Find a Grave, the Social Security Death Index, and we have some newspaper obituaries to look at. And Find a Grave is a great website. It's associated with Ancestry, but it's a separate free website out there. But they've got all the information kind of loaded into Ancestry. But we have from Find a Grave, we have her birth, we have her birthplace, her birth date, birthplace, death date, death place, the cemetery in which she's buried, burial agreement, the place where that cemetery is. We have her father's name, her mother's name, spouse's name, children's names, all listed here, and a whole bunch of suggested records. And that's all because of nice people who have added this information in Find a Grave. Sometimes you get lucky and get all this information in Find a Grave. Sometimes there's nothing but the name. Sometimes there's a picture, but you can go out to the website, Find a Grave. There's a little click, you can click on that green arrow, go to the website and see a picture of the gravestone and things like that. All of this is clickable. So you can click on Emanuel Becker, who's her father, and find information about him. You can, my mother is listed there, my uncles and aunts. US Social Security Death Index. Of course, the Social Security only started in the 1930s. That's why it says 1935 to 2014. Right about 2014, people started to get anxious about identity theft, even though it's, all of these people are going to be people who have passed away. You won't find information after 2014. But that's a big bit of information. I haven't found anybody who passed away before the middle of the 1960s, but theoretically, I guess there are some information earlier than that. And these are people that were collecting Social Security at the time of their death. So you're not going to find young people who passed away who weren't, but you will find older folks that were collecting a Social Security check at the time when they passed away, including my grandma. And it says her name, actually her Social Security number was there and I just blocked it out. But she passed away in 1972, so it was a long time ago. And she would be 40-something years old if she was still alive. So so not as worried about identity theft with her. But this tells me that she passed away in Aurora, Colorado in March of 1972. She was her birth date, 15th of September, 1884, and that she got a Social Security number in Kansas in 1965. So I know in 1965, she lived in Kansas, basically. Early on, not everybody had to have a Social Security card. She was probably a homemaker and not working, so she didn't get a Social Security card until later on, when either the laws changed and she needed one, or she went to work or something in 1965. Once again, we have these great suggested records there. And I also put an arrow to the request copy of original application. And the reason why you might want to do that is because more information about that person in the application, and it's in their handwriting, you know, if it's earlier on. She filled that out herself, and they do ask questions like the person, who is the person's father, the maiden name of their mother, their date of birth, address at the time of application, her birth name, and this is all the primary evidence because it came from the person that it's about. I wrote down that was $27 to $29 to do that. And if you click on that, it actually tells you how you would do that. The Social Security Death Index information is also available at Family Search. You may or may not get the Social Security number. If you get the Social Security number and you want that original application, it's a little easier to get the right person, so it costs less. It's like $27 instead of $29. If you don't, you can still ask for it even if you don't have if they don't list the Social Security number. And that's just a link to where to request that Social Security application if you wanted to do that. I found this pretty useful as a way to find out about more recent deaths. You know, my aunts and uncles, when I was doing my family tree, and I knew they had passed away, and I thought it was sometime in the 1990s, but I didn't know exactly when. I could look it up and it would tell me their date of death in most cases and where they were living when they passed away. And I already told you this, that Ancestry.com does cost some money if you get it at home, but it's free if you want to search at your library. And the Ancestry.com search screen looks pretty much the same as Ancestry Library Edition does, except it has a lot of that personalized information. And for me, this is kind of what my chart looks like. I've got like 4,000 people, something like that, in my chart because I've got everybody, you know, family, distant family, all their kids, everybody in there. You can see the little green leaves. Those are where people that I have hints at. And I just opened up one line there so you can see that it keeps going back into time. I've added pictures. I've kind of moved off my living people off the screen, but I can see living people, my brothers and sisters and my cousins and whatever that are still alive, but nobody else can see my living people that I've entered in there, even if it's a public tree. And mine's a public tree because I want other people out there to help me. I want other people to be able to send me information, or I want to help out other people and I want them to be able to help me too. This is looking at Joseph Goyette, just these are my hints. I had 13 hints for him, and it'll show you the hints, and you can look at them, you can click on them and open it up, and you can save it or ignore it. Sometimes the ones that I ignore come back, which is good, just in case I made a mistake, and that was a really good hint, and I just didn't appreciate it at the time. But you know, it'll give me some hints that I can add and to my family if I want to. And I just clicked on the first one, and it showed me, does the Joseph Goyette in this record match the person in the tree? I can say yes, no, or maybe. The no's, I think, go away forever. The maybes might come back for me to look at again. I have done DNA. I've done it both at Ancestry and 23andMe. Ancestry is probably better if you're going to use it for, you know, doing genealogy and contacting matches, and who also like to do genealogy, because there's a lot of genealogists that have Ancestry accounts. The 23andMe has the health information, which is also interesting. And it's probably, those are the two big ones with really big, large databases of people for your matches. But, you know, they give me my ethnicity estimates, which are just estimates, you know, and I sometimes feel like they should be like for entertainment purposes only, because they keep changing and they never quite match what you think they should look like. The DNA matches are interesting, and I've got some good information for those folks. The through lines are actually how Ancestry has have my ancestors, and they will tell me exactly how I'm related through a particular person to my DNA matches, which is pretty cool. That's the through lines. These are the Jones side of my family and some of my ancestors, and the pictures I have of them. I can click on one of those people and find out the people that I'm related to. I clicked on exactly how I'm related to those people. This is Silas Jameson Feimster, who's one of my, I guess he's my second great grandfather, it says. And I'm descended through Sarah Eleanor, that's me down there. But I have DNA matches that are descended through her brothers, basically. She has 4 brothers, and I've kind of blocked out their names, but you can see that I can actually add those people to my family tree if I want to. Like under Robert McCleary Davis, there's people with the kind of the dotted lines are people that I don't have in my tree, but I can add them to my tree if I want to. And I don't get all the information about my living DNA matches, but I can contact them and get information from them if I want to. But they do protect your information for living matches, DNA matches. Other things that Ancestry does, in addition to all the great records that you can search, you can also learn more about how to do genealogy. It tells you how to get started, how to use the census, how to do the beyond the basic stuff if you want to work on military records or cemetery records or things like that. Ancestry Academy, I think one of these, okay, so that's Ancestry Libraries Learning Center, and Ancestry Academy is the same sort of deal, but at ancestry.com, so they have more videos and, you know, some cooler stuff since you're paying more for that. Heritage Quest has research aids too, so other ways to learn. The Family History Guide, the fhguide.com, that is the familysearch.org's help for you to to search your genealogy. And they have specific things like you want to know how to search Ancestry or how to search MyHeritage or Find My Past, which is another paid genealogy website, or just general, you want to know about your Scandinavian ancestors. So they'll give you some information about searching that. And I mentioned YouTube. There's a lot of help that you can find for genealogy on YouTube, including, I should have been showing you the Laramie County Library's YouTube page, which includes a lot of things like cool story time or stuff that the second floor does, but also my genealogy classes are there too. We have how-to books that you can check out from the library. Things like your and I have them also in the bibliography. But they're in the 929s, the Dewey Decimal number 929 on the third floor of the library. And there are things like genealogy for dummies, or how to find your Irish ancestors, things like that, that you can check out. Oh, I have 10 more slides to do. It's always a good idea to just see what you can just find out there at the internet at large. You don't have to be just looking in genealogy databases, because sometimes people will do a lot of good genealogy information or family history information and then just put it out there for you to find elsewhere. But remember to verify what you find, consider the source, consider the information, and look for the references. It's good if you know how to do a good Google search, so you don't go down the wrong paths. And there used to be a good way, just to click on Google Advanced Search, but they sort of hide it now, but it still exists. The best way I've found it is I just Google Advanced Search to get there. So I just Google Advanced Search. But you can find pages that include certain words, have an exact word or phrases, any of the words. If you have synonyms like woman, women, female, girl, whatever, some things that are almost synonyms that, any of those words will do. None of the words, if you want to look for Vikings, you want information about your Viking ancestors, but you don't want to know about the Minnesota Vikings football team, you can say Vikings, but no football. Numbers, if you have a range of a birth date, you think, well, somebody was born between 1845 and 1855, you can do that range too. Languages, you want that Viking information, but you don't want it, the stuff that's in Norwegian or Swedish. So you can say, I just want English. I did a little search, and all I did was my ancestor Jacob Adams, which was in that 1810 census I think we saw. And so Jacob Adams is in quotes. So not all the Jacobs or all the Adamses, but just people named Jacob Adams, and in quotes. And Conewago was the little town he lived in. And I get some good information. In fact, the Jacob Adams, I could have put in his wife's name, or I could have put in his birth date, because he was born on the 10th of July, 1761. So all those 1761s are the right guy. So there's a lot of good information. There's Find a Tree and Wiki Tree information, genealogy.com, other places. This is the Family Heart online genealogy database at RootsWeb, but Jacob Adams is listed there because his wife's name was Maria Storm. So this is about her family, basically Maria Storm, and her parents are listed there. So we're going back to Johannes Storm was born in 1723, and all the information about them and their children, and of course everything that's blue and underlined is a link, so I can find out more information about Jacob's Adams family, or whom their daughter Maria married, things like that, just there in by searching the internet. You can do things like find out a subject and then search for just videos about internet genealogy in Google. So I just limited, I put in internet genealogy and I clicked on videos so I can just see those. Facebook, you can have group pages on Facebook, and you can just invite people, your family, to be members. This is the Jones family. This is my dad's side of the family. So we've just invited people that are in my family, my Jones family, to be there. And I think there are like 48 members. So you can post your information you find about your family, pictures, things like that here, and share it with your cousins. And there are other ways to do that too, but that's just kind of how we've done it in my family, is have family pages about different branches of the family. The summary is just record what you already know about your family, so you both know what you already know and what you don't know. You might find that you have like a whole branch that you don't know anything about, so things to work on. Read a how-to book or magazine, check one of those out from the library in 929, and learn about different ways you can search your genealogy. Start with those original records, such as the US Federal Census and Vital Records. And original records are ones that were made at the time an event happened by with information from people that were involved in that event. So, a birth record is people that were witnesses of that event. Ancestry Library or Heritage Quest, which is the databases we have here at the library, are good places to start. If you come next week at 3 o'clock, we're going to talk more about places, things like FamilySearch.org, Find a Grave. We're going to talk about immigration records, land records, military records, such as Fold 3. Fold 3 is a database that we have that you have to be at the library to search, and more. And come into the library because we have 20,000 genealogy books and microfilm and things like that from all over the United States and some other countries too. Our special collections room up on the 3rd floor is open every time the library is open. So 10 to 9 Monday through Thursday, 10 to 6 Friday and Saturday, and 1 to 5 on Sunday. I have volunteers that staff this room. They're not always here. If there's no volunteer or nobody in there to help you, come out to the reference desk, which is the third floor Ask Your desk, and folks, library employees, reference librarians will come in and get you started. They've kind of locked down the computers in that room. So when you click on the internet, you're going to have to go to the favorites at the top, which is a little star, and click on that, and then you'll see all the genealogy databases or websites that you can go to. And there's not an address bar at the top, so you look at the favorites and then go to the different websites from there. Of course, I told you that next week, October 13th at 3 p.m. on Zoom, same time, same channel. You'll need to sign up again at the website if you haven't already done that for next week's class, so you can get the new Zoom link. So October 13th at 3 p.m. and we'll keep going with more information. And next month in November, this is the day before Veterans Day, so I'm doing military genealogy. So we're going to talk more about military records and things like that at 3 p.m. So more focused on just military information, 3 p.m. November 10th. Now I'm basically done with my presentation, so I can try to answer your questions. And I'm going to go back to the question we had in the chat, but you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you'd like.
Thank you, Elaine. Excellent presentation. My question really was on the free sites, and that you can start building your family chart. With Ancestry.com, I have it as private. Is there a private option with the public sites, is what I was asking, just out of curiosity.
Oh, like Family Search? Family Search does the same thing. If living people are not seen, but everything else is public.
Okay.
So you can't, on Family Search, it's not private. And part of the reason why is because they have tried to do this one world tree. So people aren't in there multiple times on multiple people's trees. It's basically you're linked up to a tree that everybody else that has those same ancestors are also on that tree.
Okay.
So, you know, which is cool in a way, because I only put in up to my grandparents, and then it just opened up and all the rest of it was already there. So, but sometimes I'm a little skeptical about it. Family Search had me as like a first cousin 10 times removed from Isaac Newton. So I had to try to verify that, and there's a possibility, but there's no proof. There's really no proof, but it's in Family Search. I do have people named Newton back there, and I do have someone who has the same name as Isaac Newton's father. But so there's a possibility that there's a brother that of Isaac Newton I'm descended from. And I have somebody here at the library. Her family tree actually went back to Adam and Eve, literally.
Brief.
Right. I mean, it went. She was related to Jesus too. You know, they kind of the whole. You know, if you've written the Holy Blood, Holy Grail, or Dan Brown's books, you know, there's the Merovingian descent from Jesus, and they had her that as her family, you know, and then back to the Adam and Eve basically in the Bible. So
So that took care of her research responsibilities, didn't it?
So Family Search, sometimes I can question, you know, as you get too far back, if that's right or not. But there's some good information there, and it's not private, but your living people are private.
Okay, that's good to know, because I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I guess in follow up with corrections, as I go through Ancestry.com and building my charts, I see a lot of errors. How do you handle making corrections?
Well, in Ancestry.com, I try to correct my own, you know, and it's a little difficult, but especially when you get 4,000 people in your family tree to find all the errors. But I would say I'm a little more diligent with my direct family line than other people. But as I find them, I correct them. I don't know if that answers your question, but
Yes.
Yeah.
This is Sherry. I have a related question to that. I definitely have errors on my ancestry, and I'm a little anxious about going in and starting to delete things for fear I'm going to mess up in the process. And so my question is, do you have people that are like available as resources, maybe to be paid to come in and correct some errors that look pretty obvious to them? Is that an option? Or is that a resource through the library?
Well, not really. Not
Okay.
really for that. There are professional genealogists and that you can find online that you could probably hire to help you out with things like that. I have volunteers, and my volunteers have been working for many, many years, and they will go to a certain extent. You know, what you're talking about is a tedious, unfortunately.
Yes, I'm afraid of that.
And so, yeah, they're probably more interested in helping you out with those more exciting discoveries,
Yes.
rather than correcting mistakes. Yeah.
That's not the answer I wanted, you know.
Sorry. Yeah, there's people that you pay to help you out, but you know, you're going to be paying some money.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know Ancestry has a list of, I mean, they have a section where it's clear that you can elicit somebody's help that's in their system. So I've noticed that. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was going to say, I know that I've heard that some people will have like 2 trees for their family. They have this is what I've proven. This is for sure the right information tree. And here's my theory tree. So they can work on it and get hints and whatever on their theory tree. And when they've got things worked out, then they put it on another tree this is my settled, this is good information tree. So they can, because you can have as many trees as you want. You can keep adding trees and so there's like working trees and theory trees and public trees and private trees. And
can you delete a tree?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And they warn you that once you delete it, you'll never get it back. So like, do you really want to do this? But, yeah. Okay, I hope that was helpful to you. I know there's a lot of stuff there, but hopefully if you've got 1 or 2 ideas, you know, that's the best I can hope for, I guess.
But I think it was really helpful, very helpful to me. I appreciate it a lot, Elaine. So thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Elaine. I got a lot more out of that than I think I've ever gotten out of a book I've read. So thank you very much.
Okay, good. Well, hopefully you can come back next week and we can continue on. And if you have any questions between now and next week, and you come back next week, have them ready for me, okay?
All right.
All right, and you can always email me too, so.
Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. See
Have
you
a good
next
day.
week.
Okay, thanks, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.